Oh, look at that.
Whoop.
Wow.
That is insane. So now I see a number of Dora performance as 5 on 10 for Dora.dev itself. So I'd let you give us and the viewers, a kind of walkthrough of what does that mean.
Yeah, for sure. So it looks like we have lead time for changes. Of course, that's one of those 4 key metrics, the throughput metrics, and it says 1 day and 7 hours. That's about typically how long it takes. What time frame is this looking at? Oh, I see. It's here from like the 12th of April to the 10th of July. Is that customizable?
So the default it's customizable. The default that we take usually is 30 days of sync. So why don't you do last 14 days so that we have an equivalent comparison window?
Ah,
Perfect.
Okay. Oh, look, we're even better now than we were over the last 90 days. We must be improving. Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so I can see my lead time for changes, and it looks like, oh yeah, it shows me that it's trending upward, so that's really good. My deployment frequency, I see about 2 deploys a week. Oh, but that one looks like it's trending downward. Okay.
Correct.
Dhruv, I don't see any change failure rates or time to recovery. So like, yeah, we run a great system, I guess. Nothing ever fails. That's not necessarily
absolutely. Absolutely. In our open source version, what we do by default, and we'll soon add configurations, but right now what we do is we take your reverts, we take your hotfixes as the failures, because if you see the original document that is written by you on Dora.dev itself, so by default, anything that requires a revert or a hotfix is considered a failure, and that's what we take. So your Dora.dev is perfectly smoothly moving shit. So there are no reverts, and hence there are no failures. But maybe we can try more things where we can find out a revert, and then we can explore the stability metrics as well.
Right. Gotcha. So if I had revert commits, those would be counted as failures. Gotcha. I guess we have this practice in the Dora.dev team that we don't believe in rolling backwards. We believe rollbacks are a lie. So we never revert. We always just fail forward, fail forward, fail forward. Yeah. That keeps our numbers really good here as well. Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Perfect strategy.
Now interesting, because, you're just looking at PRs, right? So how do you know that a PR was deployed? How do you get this deployment frequency number? Where does that come from?
Yeah, of course. So there are 2 configurations. One is that you can, to get started easily, you can count a PR merge as the one that gets deployed, because you have a pipeline and you can assume that once it's deployed, then the rest of the process is taken care of. And that we count as deployment frequency. But of course, we know that the reality might be a little more sophisticated than that. So for that, we give you an option of selecting a workflow for your repositories. And whenever there is a deployment, so whenever there's a workflow run successfully, that we count as a deployment. And that's how we count the deployment frequency. Now, any time period that you choose, we bring out how many times you're deploying. Let's say here you are doing 2 deployments per week. So it's great, perfect. And if you see 2 badges out there, 2 little badges out there, which is high, both of them are high for Dora.dev. So we also give a badge based on the last research, and which tells about which category or which tier your team is performing based on the last survey.
Okay, great. Oh, that's really cool. Oh, wow, look at this.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah. Okay. So that the deployment frequency, just so I understand, the way that you're counting these today is once a change gets merged into the main branch, that counts as a deployment here, because the access that you have is only to my PRs. As it turns out, the way that we run Dora.dev, our deployments kick off automatically once you've merged to main. So this works very well. Dora.dev, of course, is, it's mostly a static website. It's generated by Hugo, so there's not a whole lot of complexity to it, if you will. So that this makes really good sense. And I like the opportunity where you have the workflow, so that if you have a more sophisticated or more complex deployment process, that you could capture that there as well. Now, maybe I'll look at these details and you can walk me through this really quickly. And then I would like to try, that was easy for Dora.dev. I'd like to look at a couple of other repositories too and just make sure I've understood how to get this set up. But let's take a look here.
Oh, of course.
First. Yeah.
Of course. So what we have done here is that, see, once you look at a number, let's say lead time for change, what does that even mean, right? We ought to make it a little more actionable, because if I am at 2 days, what does that mean, right? Am I doing good, bad? Where is the need to improve it? So that is the gap that we saw. And so what we do is, once you click on any card, any 4-key card, we show you the trend of how it's been going. Then we also show you a breakdown of different stages. So by definition, lead time for changes is how long does it take a commit to reach the production, right? So what we do is we break down the stages in 5 parts. One is, how long does it take for you to open the PR from the first commit? Then how long does it take for a peer to give you a review after you have opened the PR? So now, typically, this time is a wait time, because you have made your changes, you are up for a review, and now you're just waiting for someone to give it to you, give a feedback to you. So this time is typically what we call this time spent in waiting. Then the next stage is rework time, where once you have gotten a response from someone, till the time you get an approval. So we typically wait for the first approval, because that's a green signal. Now, a key thing to note here is, like in this, your rework is very less, because someone would just be giving a small nitpick and a little change and it's done. But imagine for the teams who have it in days. That just means that the planning process needs some change, because the programmer and the reviewer do not have the same ideas, right? Because it's requiring days of work. Then we go to the 4th stage, which is the merge stage. Now, you have done the PR, you've gotten an approval. What are you waiting for? Why are you not merging it, right? So if there's my favorite book called The Goal. It talks about standing inventory. So it says that whenever you are running any operations, your inventory should keep flowing. So a high merge time is indicator of the inventory standing. There might be different processes, but we'll come back to that on how to improve this. And the last but not the least is that once your PR is merged, how soon do you deploy it? Now, in this example that we have set up right now as Dora.dev, we have chosen PR merge. So the deployment time is typically 0 because you trigger your deployment right after you're merging it. But once you add a workflow, we also show you how soon it takes it. Then go on, shoot a question.
No. Finish your thought.
Yeah, and then the last thing is that we show you a list of all the pull requests that created this metric, so that you can have the detail. You can also download it. You can configure columns and play around with that data if you will. And you can also look at each PR in detail. So if you just hover on the lead time, let's say for the first PR, alongside Dave's name, right? So you can look at each and every detail. So it's like you can keep chiseling it down to any level you want. But yeah, so I'm waiting for your question. Yes.
Yeah. I love how this kind of breaks down to show you those averages across all of those times. And if I were looking at this, these are great signals, and the action that I might take, this response time seems like it's the bottleneck of these 5, right? But then interestingly, if I look at a couple of these pull requests, this one that took 6 days, the response time looked like it was again the bottleneck. This one that took 5 days, it was actually the merge time that was the bottleneck. Now, it's a small enough repository, and I happen to be the one that wrote that PR, and I'm sure I'm the one that reviewed that PR. So I have all of the details in my head about how this works. And in fact, I know that this PR, update the survey page, I wrote that PR on like a Friday or a Thursday, but I intentionally didn't want it deployed until Monday. But I asked Dave to sign off on it in advance of that. And so you see a really nice response time, 4 hours. It's not so bad. no rework. It must have been just approved, but then we intentionally held that. So I have all that context in my head. It doesn't show up here in these numbers, but we can see as a trend across the team, our response time on reviewing PRs is probably it's the constraint across this thing, which is really cool. And I love that you can sort of see on the PR by PR basis how those things are changing, and it might lead to really interesting questions. Like this one had 4 hours worth of rework. I would imagine that Dave wasn't working on it for 4 hours. Maybe I commented on it on a Friday night or something. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you raised an important point, because you don't have to take like each element to the heart, to the point. It's the pattern that you see over time, because if you see the pattern in Dora.dev as well for the last 14 days, let's say,
right,
you see the pattern of first response being the highest, right? Because one of things will get normalized, and the major thing, which is a process excellence bit, basically the bit that will improve your processes, will appear on the top. So yeah, wonderful.
Right. Yeah, that's super good. All right, let's maybe we'll look at the details here of the deployment frequency.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can select a deployment on the left. All right. Yeah. And that so this. Oh, okay. I see response, rework, and merge there as well showing up.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's giving us the lead time for that change again. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Great. So I can see all of those deploys that have gone through.
Yeah. So once you do a workflow with it, you'll also see a very interesting thing where you can see the deployment times and the deployment frequency correlations. And it's beautiful. So basically, you'll find that if you reduce your deployment time, your deployment frequency goes up, and so you can easily spot areas of improvement there.
Oh, that's super cool. All right, so this was really easy to set up.